Welcome to Shadow Puppet Theater, presented by the Tippecanoe County Public Library. Today we will be telling the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Little Red Riding Hood. She was called that because she wore a red hood every day that her grandmother, who she loved very much, gave her. One day her mother called her and told her that her grandmother was sick and asked Little Red Riding Hood to take muffins to her. She warned Little Red Riding Hood, no matter what, go straight to grandmother's house and do not talk to anyone. So Little Red Riding Hood went on her way to bring her treats to grandmother. As Little Red Riding Hood was walking to her grandmother's house, the big bad wolf smelled the delicious muffins, and he decided he wanted them for himself. So he approached Little Red Riding Hood. "Excuse me, miss, but what's that delicious smell coming from your basket?" Little Red Riding Hood said, "I'm sorry, sir. I cannot talk to strangers." "Oh, I'm not a stranger," said the wolf. Little Red was not sure, but she told him, "They're muffins for my ill grandmother." "Your grandmother is ill?" said the wolf. "You know what your grandmother would probably like is some of these beautiful flowers. You should pick her a bouquet." So Little Red Riding Hood stopped and began to pick some flowers. And the big bad wolf ran to grandmother's house to beat Little Red Riding Hood there. The big bad wolf finally reached grandmother's house and knocked on the door. Now grandmother knew that Little Red Riding Hood was on her way, so she answered the door. And the wolf jumped on grandma and forced her into a closet. Then the big bad wolf put on grandma's nightcap and nightgown and crawled into her bed and waited for Little Red Riding Hood. Little Red Riding Hood reached grandmother's house and knocked on the door. And from inside she heard a deep, "Come in." She thought grandma must be really sick to have such a deep voice. She walked up to grandmother's bed and noticed something different. And she said, "Grandmother, what big ears you have." And grandmother responded, "All the better to hear you with, dear." Little Red Riding Hood said, "Grandma, what big eyes you have." Grandmother responded, "All the better to see you with, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood said, "Grandma, what big hands you have." Grandmother responded, "All the better to hug you with, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood said, "Grandma, what big teeth you have." And Grandma said, "All the better to eat you with." And that's when the big bad wolf jumped out of the bed. The big bad wolf began chasing Little Red Riding Hood around the house, trying to get her muffins. When Little Red Riding Hood screamed, "Ah!" Nearby working was a woodsman, and he came to see what the screaming was about. Usually Grandma and Little Red Riding Hood could take care of themselves, but because Grandma was ill, they needed his extra help. And he scared the big bad wolf away. So the big bad wolf turned around and ran away forever. Little Red Riding Hood and the woodsman found poor grandmother in the closet, scared but safe. And together they all enjoyed Mother's delicious muffins. The end. If you enjoyed Little Red Riding Hood, make sure to visit your local library to find a copy to check out. We have both traditional and modern retellings of the story.